Welcome to the ACE Project, brought to you by the Literacy.io team at Texas A&M University. I'm your host, Ashley Stack, also known as Captain Comprehension. We are so excited you'll be joining us on this reading journey and hope you and your child enjoy this time together. So get comfy, rev up your brains, and get ready to think, because we are ready to help you become a comprehension detective.
Welcome, Super Readers. My name is Captain Comprehension, and I am here to guide you as you become a comprehension detective. Welcome to Podcast 35. This month, we're reading Planting Stories, The Life of Librarian and Storyteller Pura Belpré. When most people think of Pura Belpré, they think of the Pura Belpré Award, which is awarded to Latino or Latina authors or illustrators who celebrate their amazing culture in children's books. Today, we're going to read about the woman behind the Pura Belpré Award, Pura Belpré herself, to understand how she impacted children's books and made Puerto Rican folktales available to children. Before we begin reading, let's go over some important vocabulary that will help us better understand the passage. Our first term is publisher. Publisher is someone who gets books printed and ready to sell. We don't really have any synonyms or antonyms for this word. In Spanish, we hear editor or editora. Then we have the term lush. Lush is when something is covered in rich growth. A synonym or word that means the same might be green, fertile, or verdant. And an antonym or opposite would be barren or leafless. In Spanish, it's lozano or lozana. Next, we have the word cuentos, which is actually a Spanish word that we're going to hear in our story. Cuentos means stories. A synonym or word that means the same might be tales or legends. No antonyms for this one. In Spanish, of course, it is cuentos. Then finally, we have the term opportunity. Opportunity is a chance to do something. A synonym or word that means the same would be chance or possibility. And again, no antonyms for this one. In Spanish, we would say oportunidad. Okay, detectives, it's time for us to kick off those questions. Text POD 35, that's POD 35, to 866-903-2545. This'll get you started. Let's go. Which word helps the reader understand the meaning of the word cuentos? A. Taught. B. Folktale. C. Planting. D. Possibility. What does the word opportunity mean? A. Goal. B. Misfortune. C. Damage. D. Possibility. All right, super readers, it's time for us to read the story. It is 1921. Pura Teresa Belpré leaves her home in San Juan for a visit to Nueva York. Words travel with her, stories her abuela or grandmother taught her. Cuentos folclóricos, Pura retold in the shade of a tamarind tree in Puerto Rico. Now a new island stretches before her, ripe for planting seeds of the cuentos she carries. Manhattan, a city of hustle and bustle, bigger, louder, crowded, yet alive with hope and possibility. What began as a visit to celebrate her sister's wedding becomes the first steps in a new land. Y una vida nueva for Pura. Una vida nueva means a new life. She works first in a garment factory, but it is cold floors and hard edges, not the soft, fertile ground where seeds take root. Then, a golden opportunity, una bendición. The library needs a bilingual assistant. Pura speaks Spanish, English, and French. She is perfect for the job. But where are her abuela's stories? Not one folk tale from Puerto Rico is on the shelves. How lucky for the library that Pura has story seeds ready to plant and grow. In the children's room, she lights the story hour candle and begins. Her eyes dance, her voice sings. Pura's words paint a picture of a little house with a round balcony, where Martina, a beautiful Spanish cockroach, meets Perez, a handsome and gallant mouse. El ratoncito, Perez, y la cucarachito, Martina. A tale from the tamarind tree. When Pura's story is done, each child makes a wish on the candle, and with a wisp of air, whoosh, la vela, the candle, is blown out. Now Pura has a wish too, to plant her story seeds throughout the land. Pura learns to make puppets. She snips and sews their clothes, paints their delicate faces. Families come to hear folk tales in Inglés y Español, to watch Pura's puppets dance across the stage of her stories. Wow, she told her stories in 2 languages. But the library needs libros, or books, for its shelves. How can more children read Perez y Martina and other cuentos de Puerto Rico? Pura puts her story in an envelope and mails it to Frederick Warne, a publisher. Soon, Perez y Martina is a book. Now a published author, puppeteer, and storyteller, Pura travels from branch to branch, classroom to classroom, to churches and community centers, planting her story seeds in the hearts and minds of children new to this island, who wish to remember la lengua y los colores of home. That means the language and colors. Writing, learning, speaking, teaching, traveling, Pura does not slow down until, like the beautiful Martina, she meets her Perez. On a December day in New York, Pura marries the musician Clarence Cameron White. Un año away from the library, she decides. 1 year to start a new life as a wife. Chwee, 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 chwee. But a year stretches on. Together they travel to new cities. Clarence plays his music. Pura tells her stories. They are happy years of music and writing, separations and reunions, friends, family, and stories, always. Until on a June day in New York, Clarence stops playing his music, and Pura's story must begin again. It is 1961. Pura returns to the library. There are others now, storytellers who make puppets dance, who read Perez y Martina, The Tiger and the Rabbit, Juan Bobo, The 3 Magi, and many more of Pura's stories to the children. The seeds she has planted, the roots that grew shoots into the open air of possibility, have become a lush landscape into which she steps as though she has never left. What a beautiful story that was. So let's think, what is the text structure of planting stories? Here are some of the words that I heard that helped me to identify the text structure for this. She kept asking where, as in where are the books? And then luckily they had Pura to tell her stories. She wished she could bring them to more children, and she was planting the seeds. And now there are others that tell her stories. It had become a lush landscape full of her books. Use your text structure bookmark and think, is this cause and effect, problem and solution, cause, problem and solution, or comparison? When you're ready and you think you've got the answer, go ahead and go to the multiple choice question. What is the text structure of the passage? A. Comparison. B. Cause and effect, C. Problem and solution, or D. Cause, problem, and solution? Okay, super readers, I identified this as being cause, problem, and solution. So let's use the main idea sentence stems for cause, problem, and solution to help us write a main idea. The cause is, the problem is, the solution is. Pause your video and discuss what you think the main idea is with your adult partner. When you're ready, press play and I'll show you what I wrote. Hey super readers, here's what I wrote for my main idea. The cause was Pura wanted to share the folk stories of Puerto Rico. The problem was the library did not have books in Spanish. The solution was Pura became a published author to share the stories with more children. How did your main idea compare to mine? I bet we had some very similar ideas. All right, detectives, it's time for us to answer a multiple choice main idea question. Here we go. What is the best main idea for the selection? A. When Pura Belpré discovered there were no books in the library telling the stories of Puerto Rico, she wrote her own to plant stories in more children. B. Pura Belpré moved to New York from Puerto Rico. She loved to tell stories and make puppets for children visiting the library. C. Pura Belpré worked as a seamstress after she moved to New York. When the library opened a position for a bilingual assistant, Pura applied because she could speak 3 languages. D. Pura Belpré was a published author, storyteller, and puppeteer in New York City's public library. Pause your videos and text in your answer now. Okay, detectives, it's time for us to take our main idea and extend it to a summary by adding some details that support each part. So, let's think back to our main ideas first. The cause was Pura wanted to share the folk stories of Puerto Rico. The problem was the library did not have books in Spanish. The solution was Pura became a published author to share the stories with more children. Pause your video and think about the details you could add to the cause, the problem, and the solution that would help extend our main idea into a summary. When you're ready, press play. Okay, detectives, here's what I wrote for my summary. The cause was Pura wanted to share the folk stories of Puerto Rico. As a girl, she had listened to her grandmother tell these tales. The problem was the library did not have books in Spanish. Pura held story time and made puppets for the children to enjoy, but she wanted even more children to hear the stories. The solution was Pura became a published author to share the stories with more children. She traveled around New York and to other cities, sharing her stories and planting seeds. All right, let's use what we just did to answer a multiple choice summary question. What is the best summary of the selection? A. Pura loved to tell folk tales to children. Her favorite was about a beautiful Spanish cockroach, Martina, and a handsome and gallant mouse, Perez. Pura made puppets of the characters and told the story in both English and Spanish. Children and families loved to listen to Pura tell her stories. B. Pura wanted children in New York to hear stories that would help them remember the language and colors of their homeland, since many of the people in her community had moved to New York from somewhere else, like Pura. Pura told the stories of Puerto Rico using puppets that she sewed the clothes for and painted the faces of. C. Pura loved spreading the folk tales she heard from her grandmother in Puerto Rico. Since the library books did not contain these stories, Pura would tell them to children during story time using puppets. But she wanted the stories to be heard by more children, so Pura wrote and published books and traveled around sharing her stories with many children. D. Pura was born in Puerto Rico. She decided to stay in New York after she visited for her sister's wedding in 1921. She worked as a seamstress in a garment factory, but later became a librarian. Pura married Clarence Cameron White, a musician, in December. They traveled together telling stories and playing music. In 1961, Pura returned to the library after Clarence stopped playing music. All right, think through these answer choices and remember to choose the one that contains the cause, the problem, and the solution with a few added details. Text in your answer, and when you're ready, press play to resume. Okay, super readers, it's time for us to infer. Remember, when we infer, we take clues from what we've read, we add it in with what we already know, and the effect is that we're able to make an inference. Based on evidence from the text, why might the Pura Belpré Award have been created? The author describes Pura as planting seeds throughout the story. The use of figurative language shows how Pura changed. These are great questions. Pause your video and discuss them with your adult partner, and then push play to see the multiple choice versions. Based on evidence from the text, why might the Pura Belpré Award have been created? A. To encourage children to write books containing mice and cockroaches. B. To remind people of the importance of books. C. To honor great librarians. D. To award authors and illustrators like Pura who celebrate their culture through books. The author describes Pura as planting seeds throughout the story. The use of figurative language shows how Pura changed A. The number of puppets the library had. B. The culture of books and stories at the library. C. The time children spent attending story time. D. The trees and flowers that grew in the library. Thank you so much for joining us this month, Comprehension Detectives. I hope you enjoyed reading and learning about Pura Belpré. I look forward to joining you again next month. Remember, we can all be super readers. This is Captain Comprehension, signing off.